Hey guys, my name is Navia, and today I am wrapping up my review series of all the seasons of Stranger Things with Stranger Things Season 5. We are finally at the end of the road, everyone. I'm excited to get into it. I have plenty of thoughts. I kid you not, I've been texting with my cousin about this since I've been leaving work. Going like, I have thoughts. So, I feel like that this might be something that I'll send right to her. But, so the point is, the fall of 1987, Hawkins is scared by the opening of the rifts, and our heroes are united by a single goal: find and kill Vecna. But he has vanished, his whereabouts and plans unknown, complicating their mission. The government has placed the town under military quarry, intensified its hunt for Eleven, forcing her back into hiding. As the anniversary of Will's disappearance approaches, so does a heavily familiar Daft. The final battle is looming, and with it, a darkness and more powerful and more deadly than anything that they have faced before. To this nightmare, they'll need everyone, the full party, standing together one last time. Now, I did talk about, I think it was in season 4? In one of my other reviews for one of the other seasons of Stranger Things, I can't remember what one of the, at the top of my head right at this point in time, but I mentioned that I heard that apparently the opening scene of Stranger Things Season 5 is all Will in the Upside Down doing some stuff. I love how we see young Will in the Upside Down. We don't see any of that in Season 1 because it's more about the mystery of Will's disappearance. So I like how we actually start to get some answers to that, why he was taken and all that. My only complaint about this Will in the Upside Down thing is that, like, it's a different kid. I understand that you couldn't get Noah Schnapp to be young Will again. But I'm surprised that they didn't, like, do what they did with the younger kid, but deep fake Noah Schnapp's face, like younger Noah Schnapp's face onto the little kid, so we can't have that fluent thing where, like, if there are fans out there that is good at doing this, I don't know how you would put this bit in Season 1, but I would like to see this cut into one of the Season 1 episodes. I don't know how you would do that in terms of, like, the tone and like what the story is in Season 1. I don't know how you would fit it in, but if there's a way that someone could fit in, I would love to see the Will Byers in the Upside Down scene in Season 1. But I'm just kind of surprised that they didn't, like, deep fake him or anything like that, because I would have thought that it might be a hard process, but this project was already... I mean, Stranger Things, ever since 2019, like, I want to say, came out in 2016, so 2017-ish. I think the second season came out. I think season 2 came out around the time, like 2017-ish. So I think that, like, if we had a season every year, it would have been much more seasons, because the fact that this has already been, like, so long to get a Season 5, it's been 10 years. If it's 10 years, you should be up to Season 10 of Stranger Things. Not Season 5. You should be 5 years later. And the cast and the directors and the writers have even apologized for that, going like, sorry that we've taken so long to get around to the final season. But, like, I don't think... Like, I'm kind of happy that they didn't do that, because if they did do that, it would have been like, okay, this is how long, like, the show is, and it's only gone for 5 years, and we end it. It would have been a very, I don't want to say dead property, but definitely a franchise that, like, was only gone for 5 years, and then it drops immediately, where almost everyone forgot about. But now, because of this, and the anticipation, it's got everyone on the edge of their seat, and I'm excited to talk about. I was kind of confused why the buyers were in the Wheelers' house, but then I was like, oh no, the buyers moved back into Hawkins at the end of season 4. So that actually kind of made sense to me. I was like, okay, that kind of works. There was something about that I was just like, this is a bit weird. But yeah, that was just kind of strange to me. But anyway, I do love Steve and Robin in the radio tower. I love how Steve is like the Robin's assistant, and Robin calls herself Rockin' Robin, and they actually play the Rockin' Robin song. I actually really like that. I do like the soundtrack for this season. I think that this is one of the more recognizable soundtracks out of all the Stranger Things songs. They all have songs from the soundtracks, from the previous soundtracks, that are very, very good, and as soon as you hear it, you think of the show. But I think this season, because I've heard most of these songs in other movies and shows and stuff, like, I was able to recognize a lot of these songs. Like, Fernando, my mum's a big ABBA fan, so of course I knew that, and of course, like, that scene's amazing, which we'll get to. Rockin' Robin, obviously, and the song that was in the Scooby-Doo movie, I can't sing it at the top of my head because I don't play that song a lot, but even that song is recognizable to me because I know it from Scooby-Doo. I like how Dustin is still wearing the Hellfire Club t-shirt from season 4 in memory of Eddie, but of course the basketball team from the last season rips it off, and it's like, come on, you still being jerks about that? Like, come on. And then like Lucas and Mike and all that going like, oh apparently Dustin's gone insane because he wants to rebuild the Hellfire Club, which is kind of like, okay. What? I was just like, what in the world? Like, come on. Okay, right. Make fun of your friends. 11 doing the training with Hopper and Joyce is really cool seeing that. That was one of the first scenes that came out for season 5. So I like how we actually see that, and they're actually helping 11 train and that type of stuff and timing her, and I actually really, really likes that. And then Nancy and Jonathan are helping Steve and Robin with the connection to the radio tower, and Steve and Jonathan, of course, are having like some friendly competition. But then, you know, we'll talk about later that they do hate each other, but like the way that it's written and the way that they play their banter is very friendly competition. The way that they play it. Even though that's meant to be, Jonathan is like, I bloody hate you, Steve Harrington. We'll talk about that later though. I promise. I do want to get to that. I do have some few things to say about that. I like when Robin puts the Upside Down song on, and everyone pulls their pens and pencils and paper out, and the game's like, okay, let's write down the coordinates. So they're all doing that, and when Dustin goes to Eddie's grave, it has the "Go to Hell" written on it, and I was like, that isn't very nice. Like, even if you didn't like the guy, like, come on now, that's a bit mean. I like when they do the mission stuff. When they do the rescue mission and Hopper goes down into the Upside Down, and they need to help Hopper get out, and I really like the whole scene of that, and it actually gave Jonathan something to do other than last season, where like the last season Jonathan, Mike and Will had pretty much nothing to do until it came to the last like 2 episodes of the season. I like how this season actually gives Will, Mike, Jonathan like actually stuff to do. I actually do like that about it. When Will has that fit, and the lights start to flicker, it gave you the hint that he has powers from that time in the Upside Down. So I like how they hinted at, which we'll talk about Will a little later, aura forming and all that stuff. I do like how they use they're using Mike and Nancy's little sister as a character in this season. Because in the previous seasons, it's always been like, oh, Holly, the younger sister to Will and Nancy, that hardly ever gets used. It's mainly there for, like, she's mainly used for, like, storylines with Karen or stuff like that. So it's not real. It's one of those things where you're like, she isn't really used until this season, which I really, really like. I think Holly's a great character in this season. And then the episode 2 opening was quite scary and quite epic as well. I actually really liked episode 2 opening with the Demogorgon in the Wheeler's house, and Karen and the dad and Holly. Was a epic on the edge of your seat opening. And seeing that reveal of Mrs. Wheeler getting scratched and on the floor in the kitchen was terrifying. And when Lucas, Mike, and Nancy went into the hospital, Lucas had a point of why didn't Vecna kill your parents? Why would he take Holly into the Upside Down when he could have left her body for you to find? And then when we get back to Will, Robin, and Joyce, and Will explains that that the feeling that for him getting into the Demogorgon, and he explains what was happening to him in season 3, where he was like, explains like, oh, over the summer I felt it coming again. Like, I feel like that it felt more like an actual payoff, and I think that is something that, I think that is what we're going to see in Avengers Doomsday, is what we're going to be getting, is that where they have slightly set planted these seeds in place, and then, like, even stuff that they've mentioned in previous movies, just little quick lines that we've missed that are very important, they're going to bring them back in Doomsday, and it's actually like, oh, okay, like, that was there the entire time. I think that the Multiverse Saga in general is going to be like Phase 1, where there's bits and pieces of things that we missed, and like we watch it all together and actually go like, oh, there's the whole piece of the puzzle. It was right there. We've just been dumb and missing it. So, I swear I've written down so much like Marvel like references or notes, because I found so much MCU Marvel in general in this season. But what can I do? It's my favorite. It's my favorite franchise of all time. Obviously, something to do with the time travel is involved. I thought that something to do with time travel was going to be involved in this season, because they were referencing Back to the Future within the season, like the flux capacitor, and then like in all the episodes they were going flux capacitor, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're going to be using time travel. That's a bit. I mean, that's an interesting choice for Stranger Things, but like, okay, I mean, like, obviously they're going to do it in a way that actually makes sense into the story and actually, like, bookended and actually makes sense of it. And when Mike and Nancy are seeing their mother, it's emotional, because, like, their mother can't talk because of her injury. So when she's writing down the name of Mr. Whatsit, because Holly has an imaginary friend called Mr. Whatsit, and Karen's been taking all these meetings with the teachers, going like, look, Holly's really messed up. Like, she has an imaginary friend called Mr. Whatsit, blah blah blah, and this is his real name, blah blah blah. And when she actually like spells out Henry, you're like, what? And like that is like right before, and even after the credits to episode 3, you're like, wait, is Henry gonna be a good person, and Vecna is the bad side? Is it gonna be like a an Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader type thing, where it's like, oh, what is going on? Then we see Holly and Henry with each other before and after the opening credits to 3, and I like when they are all making the plan to both find Holly and save the other kids. when Will makes his plan, at first you're like, okay, it's a good plan, but some holes are appearing in here. I don't know what it is. Then Dustin, Lucas, and Nancy point out the holes. You kind of scratch your head like, yeah, there's more holes than I would have thought with this. Then when Mike adds to Will's plan of, you're like, yes, now, okay, this is actually having a more of a clear vision to go save Holly. And when Lucas and Mike go to recruit Erica, I was like, oh my god, really? Like, you were so good in season 4, why do you need to come back? And then she came back, and I'm like, I think later she got a bit better for me, but the first scene where they're like whispering her, that they're telling her to come outside and talk to them, and she's going like, and then she walks down the stairs going like, are you telling me why you had to interrupt my favourite class? You're like, oh my god, why did you have to do that? Like, come on, this is silly. Like, it's crazy to me that, like, she is so good, and then she's just crap the next time you see her. And then the more you see her throughout the season, the less douchey she is. She actually becomes a better character. I will say, even though I do like the scene with Eleven and Hopper in the Upside Down, I don't love it because throughout the last 4 seasons, they have 11 separated from the group. Actually figuring out the problems within Hawkins. I think it's a little repetitive when you kind of find a different way to make 11 not within the group every season. But I also kind of go like, okay, I kind of see why you have to do this, because like the moments between Hopper and 11 are actually really, really good and really, really strong, since they had no scenes with each other literally the last season. When Jonathan looked at the cassette that Murray gave him, and he rips it open and the ring pops out, I was like, oh my god, the ring for Nancy is in there, oh my god. Like, so, kind of gave me thoughts going like, okay, is Jonathan going to be killed off? It's going to be like a Batman vs Superman thing where Superman dies and then at the funeral, like, Nancy looks at the cassette tape and goes like, what is this? And then opens it and then finds the ring. Or, like, is it going to be like Lois Lane opening up the ring in that where, like, Joyce hands Nancy the ring in the, like, or in the, hands her the cassette and goes like, look in it. And then she opens it and then the ring pops out and then Joyce goes like, he was going to propose to you. I'm going to give my thoughts on that ring thing later, because the ring thing, I was like, what the hell? I did not like that. I mean, I thought the scene was good, but I thought that the actual, like, the way that they did the ring was not good. I thought that that was a total, like, crazy thing. That was a little nitpick that I had, but we'll talk about that later. And when they eventually get Erica to feed her friend's family the pie, and her friend gets stabbed with the needle by Erica, I was like, goodness gracious, why did we need to film it like that? I do not, like I said in the previous seasons, I do not do well with needles or stuff like that. I just cannot deal with it whatsoever. So when Erica did that, I was like, oh my god. Like, really? Come on, that's a bit too far. Come on now. Then they put a hole in the floor of the house for their plan. I was kind of I thought that was a bit of a terrifying thing, because I wouldn't have destroyed someone's house for that. But hey, it's for the plot. Like, you need to just kind of go like, okay, this is what they need to do. And the scene after they do all that, with Will and Joyce apologizing to each other and talking about how Joyce things about the night that Will got stolen in the first season and why she is so tough on Will, you're like, this is actually very emotional, and I really love it about this. I think that this is great. Then later, when that Demogorgon arrives at the house, is another on the edge of your seat thing. Like, every time that the Demogorgons show up, I'm on the edge of my seat going like, okay, who's gonna die? Who's gonna die? I'm terrified. And then, like, the Wheeler's house scene at the beginning of episode 2, and seeing everyone using basically Home Alone style traps to defeat this bloody Demogorgon, I was like, what? You guys are going Macaulay Culkin level of like, okay, let's just make traps. It's like Home Alone, Nightmare on Elm Street, all these different movies from that era, and you're like, you need to make traps for these bloody Demogorgons so they don't bloody kill you. Then when Nancy and Jonathan get in the car with Dustin and Steve, and Dustin and Steve are like, go right, and they end up going through the backyards, it gave me very much of a Ferris Bueller montage with going through the backyards of people's houses. Kind of like how in Spider-Man Homecoming they did the same thing where Spider-Man was running through the backyards and all that, and then literally they be meta with it and someone's actually watching Ferris Bueller while they're parodying that scene, and like he's like swings down the pond like, oh, great movie. Like, I think every time that I see a scene like that, whether if it's this or Homecoming or something outlandish like that, I always think of Ferris Bueller, because I'm like, oh, there's that Ferris Bueller scene. When that ending came with Holly and someone is chasing her through the woods, and there is a pan up to her, and it reveals Max. I was like, what is she doing here? You're unconscious. Like, what is going on? But then they explain later, which we'll get to. Then the opening scene in episode 3 is bonkers with them having a fight with Derek and actually fighting the Demogorgon and seeing yet another tease of Will's powers where he sees what the Demogorgon is seeing, and he's like trying to make the Demogorgon stop. But you don't see the full extent of that yet, because like that's not until like later. But you're like, oh, okay, okay, what other extent to Will's powers are we going to get to in this? I do like how this season makes a new relationship between Will and Robin, which I really like their friendship in this season. And it's two characters that haven't interacted in the previous 2 seasons, which I thought was interesting. So I actually did really, really like that relationship. The fact that the army thinks that 11 is one of the people taking the kids, it is crazy. And then like the first episode, you're like, you army people are the bad guys. As soon as you see them, you're like, this makes sense. When we both go back to Max and Holly, I was like, I still have questions of why Max is here while she's at the hospital in a coma. And the fact that they address that as soon as like you see Max again, you're like, oh, okay, thank God. I was like, okay, at least you have mentioned that she is still in a coma. It's not like you just fully brought her back to life. So I'm hoping that they will explain all of the things that we have questions about later in the season. I hope. And then they explain Max was in Henry's memories, starting with the Rainbow Room from season 4, and like we see all the dead children in the experiments, and then we see Hawkins 30 years ago, from where she originally left, 30 years from where she was in Henry's mind, like, if that makes sense. 30 years ago from when she left, from when she got in her coma, basically. 30 years ago. Where Joyce, Hopper, and Karen and all those guys are still in Hawkins, but they're at school. I can't forget how much I love the relationship between Will and Mike. They are such good friends that, as well, being a spin-off with these two, like, everyone, like, the two of them, from the talk that Will gives Mike in the van in season 4 of like how he's the heart of their group and that type of stuff, and like even like while they're looking for 11 season 4, to the conversation that Mike gives Will that they need a sorcerer with 11 being in the Upside Down. I just love their relationship so much. I think that's great. I do actually like Derek helping out. I do like Derek helping the team to get the kids safe. And the neat little side plot of unlike some of the side plots in season 3 that I'm like, okay, some are neat, but some are completely unnecessary. They have set up to kill Hopper again in the show. They have already done that in the show. Like, that is a repeated plot line. Like, season 3, kill Hopper. Season 4, go and find Hopper. Season 5, tease it, killing Hopper again. Ridiculous. I did not like the tease of that. I will say, when the Demogorgon was attacking the soldiers, I got excited in that scene because the military in this show are very much like the MCU, where they are just idiots. So when you see them being ripped apart by a Demogorgon, you get excited for the action because you're like, yes, the action, and also like, yes, all these people need to be bloody killed. Which I actually really like. I thought that was very, very cool. Here's the thing that I need to say about this episode. Why are we returning to the weakest part of season 2, which is the Lost Sisters plot? Because within that season, like, so when 11 sees 8 hooked up, I was like, okay, what this is, I'm not connecting the dots here. Then when they show the number, and they show the flashback to season 2, I was like, oh no, please don't remind me of the worst episode of one of my favourite seasons. Like, that's the only episode in season 2 that I don't dislike, but I don't think it's bad. Which, like, I think there are moments in season 3 that I dislike more than that episode. Like, I think that the Max and 11 relationship moments, especially when they're not with the guys in season 3, are worse than the Lost Sisters episode in season 2. But I will talk about that in my season ranking. Season 2 had some great stuff, but that was the one thing that I did not like, was the Lost Sisters plot. So when we see Callie again, I was like, what is the point? Like, why are we doing this again? We're just retraining old footsteps. And the fact that, like, I mean, we'll talk more about Callie later, but the fact that I have more things to say about her, and this is the only thing right now that I have to say about her, is bonkers to me. But we'll get to my thoughts on that a little later. Once we see the extent of Will's powers, he is so OP, like, it's like Captain Marvel level of powers. And I was kind of surprised by that, honestly. When they repeat Phantom's speech, it was intense. And when Will saying that the kids don't make it out of Hawkins, and they're all going to get kidnapped by Vecna, and seeing everyone's reaction to what happened makes you feel like they've failed. And it's like, what is going to happen? When Will taking Lucas, talking to Lucas about Will's powers. And Lucas is like, this could change the game. I think people that think that Stranger Things is like a D&D game within the show, I think that was what that was kind of playing on. Like, that was just a thought that popped in my head. I was like, well, everyone thinks that it's going to be like a D&D game where, like, the whole show is just a D&D game, which I think would have been a pretty stupid thing. But I think that was a neat little, like, reference to what that theory was. When the kids are playing at Mr. What's-Its house, I got a funny feeling of, like, I don't trust this guy. Like, he is Vecna. What are you doing? I do not trust this guy at all. I do like when Joyce basically goes, no bad ideas, and Robert wants to use Will as like a human antenna, and Will like goes, oh, what the hell? And Robin goes like, to be fair, she did say no bad ideas. And was like, okay. I did actually find that pretty funny. I thought that was a good moment for Robin. I was starting to like Erica at this point in the show, at the beginning of Volume 2. I think she has grown as a character when you look at her character in Season 4 and 5. It's easily the best that Erica has ever been in the show, because Season 2, she's hardly there. I mean, like, she's Buddy Lucas's annoying little sister. And then in Season 3, she's just horrible. She's so bloody annoying. But, like, at least in Season 4, she's helping the gang out. It's like they're all getting up there in age, so they're actually getting pretty smart when it comes to that. I feel like with the Cowie thing, I feel like that they are doing a Avengers Endgame to Thor the Dark World, where everyone doesn't like Thor the Dark World. But everyone's like, oh, you can skip Thor the Dark World because it's not that good. But Marvel was like, no, you can't skip Thor the Dark World because it's actually very important to the Infinity Saga and Endgame with the Reality Stone. Where bringing back Callie from Season 2 is like their way of telling everyone, going like, Season 2 is relevant to Season 5 of this show. Just letting you know. Even though that everyone's like, oh, Season 2 is the worst season, I think it's one of the best seasons for me. I think that, like, we'll quickly talk about it in my ranking, but, like, I think that there is so many interesting stuff in Season 2 that is, like, it's crazy that, like, everyone thinks that it's not good. It's crazy to me. And when Cowie tells Eleven about the sick pregnant women, how Henry gave them their powers, and it wasn't drugs, I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is interesting. Like, you've actually put Cowie in here for a reason, but we all know that goes nowhere. We'll get to it. When Holly and Max are going through Holly's memories in such a cool scene, and such an incredible sequence that gives us both information and showing us how originally Holly met Vecna and got captured by him. I like when Will is inside of Vecna's body, tells Max and Holly to run, and when Vecna and Mr. Whatsit are walking down the steps in the Wheeler's house, you can see the glitch, and I'm like, oh, so they're fighting for control. Something's happening. I'm getting excited for this. I kind of wish that they did something else with the Upside Down, because they basically made like a black hole situation within the Upside Down. Everyone is going to get killed off if you just did a black hole. If that's all what was behind that wall was just a black hole, it's like, well, everyone's going to get killed off, and Vecna's still going to take over the world. So it's like, there's no point of even doing that. But they do make up for it. I'll get to it later, but they do make up for it. I do like Robin's explanation of how Will, Max, and Holly are in a trance. The way that they show, the way that she explains it, and use the records to explain it, is what is like on the same level as like of Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne way of explaining the multiverse in The Flash, where in the Flash movie, Michael Keaton basically makes spaghetti because he wants that spaghetti, but he pours it out, and he says to the DCEU Barry, the main timeline Barry, that see all the straight bits in spaghetti. In the spaghetti, they're the bits that are the same as your universe. All these wiggly bits are the bits that are different. That is one of the coolest ways to explain multiverses, and honestly, the way that Robin explains the trance is on the same level as the Michael Keaton spaghetti analogy in The Flash. I think that was awesome. I was like, that is the way, and I love how Max was, oh my god, I forgot the artist's name at the top of my head. They say it multiple times in this. Oh, Kate Bush. I love how she was the Kate Bush, like, soundtrack, and it's the one with Rain Up That Hill. I thought that was cool. I was like, that's amazing. This is the season that I hope that they don't kill Will. We'll talk about that. We all know if they killed Will or not, but when I was watching this, I was like, boy, I hope that they don't kill Will, because Will is one of the most important characters in the whole show. And I really like Will. I think that is great. Because every season has been about trying to get Will home, or trying to get over Will's trauma. And since Will is in a trance for most of episode 6, you can't kill him off after making him go into a trance. When Steve and Dustin are trying to save Jonathan and Nancy, and Steve gets the ladder and is just about to climb up the ladder, and Dustin like breaks down, going like, no, I don't want you to die, Steve. Like, that is so emotional. And like, of course, the ladder falls down. You're like, yeah, Steve would have died if he went on that. What an idiot move. Like, goodness me. We'll talk about it a little later, but like, there's something that I'm surprised about. I think that both me and my cousin would be surprised about. And the same thing goes with the scene with Jonathan and Nancy, how they're talking about things that they are frustrated, or their differences. And because they think that they're about to die, I didn't like how they set up the ring in the first episode of the season, just for Jonathan to unpropose to Nancy, until the room stopped flying in, and they didn't like redo it. I'm like, oh, I'm now actually proposing. Do you accept me, Nancy Wheeler? Like, I'm surprised that they didn't do that. I'm like, what the hell? What was the point? God, I bloody hated that. I bloody hated that. That was ridiculous to me. I did not like that at all. But anyway, I love when Max explains to Holly that she needs to find something that connects her to the real world to get her home. That's such an emotional scene. I was like, man, that's incredible. I really, really love that. And I love how they do the recreation of Rain Up That Hill scene, but with Holly and Max back to their respective bodies. Well, what do we think is their respective bodies, but actually turns out, we'll probably talk about later, but Holly does not go back to her respective body at all. No. The reunion between Lucas and Max is so emotional in this show. Everyone eventually comes in and like reunites with Max. It's just so emotional, and Mike hugging his mother is really nice to see. Really, that's how they open the episode, with Holly bloody falling to her doom. I was like, what a bloody risky way to do your opening credits. Like, you have the whole reunion between Max and Lucas and everybody, and then the next time it's like, oh, okay, so Vecna has got Holly. Holly escapes. She goes into one of the, what is it, one of the portals? No, the rifts or whatever. She goes through one of the rifts, but she's in, like, actually the Upside Down. And you're like, Jesus, what is happening? And then, like, you hear her screaming, and you see Jonathan, Nancy, Steve, and Dustin, like, they're, like, reading the book of what's, like, what is actually going on happen. And they just hear this scream, and you're like, what is going on? And, like, you just hear this scream. And then Nancy's like, they're all like, what is that? And then Nancy's like, Holly. And, like, you see her bloody eyes freaking widen like a bloody, like a bloody cartoon character, like a Bugs Bunny kind of, like, Holly. No, I mean, she didn't actually do that, but that's what I thought in my head when she did that. I was like, I could just, like, I was picturing that scene in my head when I was watching that, and, like, in reality it didn't really do that, but in my head that same scene was playing, but her eyes bloody widened like a fucking Looney Tune, like, going, Holly? I thought that was funny. I know, it's something that only I would have done, but, like, it's so silly. I love it. Once you see what happened from Nancy, Jonathan, Stephen, Dustin's perspective, you're like, okay, she didn't die, thank God. Vecna somehow got her back to him, but you see that, like, she was being held on by basically nothing and taken back up into where Vecna was. I was like, okay. At least you're not killing the reason why the whole bloody season exists. I was like, what is going on? This is ridiculous. I thought it was absolutely hilarious, though. I thought that was hilarious. I love how the teacher is in every season of Stranger Things. And, like, Erica and Murray go to him and it's like, Dustin is in trouble. He's like, what? Which we'll talk about that. But I like the moment between Mike and Karen. Basically him saying, stay at the hospital, get better, and we'll find Holly and bring her home. That was such an emotional scene. I was like, what is going on? It's like, this season's like starting to wreck me. And then later when they bloody like are trying to get into the Upside Down, and then 11 has the bloody hand pulled out like this and taking the bloody medal off, ready to get ready to go to the Upside Down. I was like, because I saw the bloody picture that someone put out. They were doing the Stranger Things characters as Avengers, and one was Avengers, one was X-Men. And the X-Men one was like, I think it was like Jean, I think it was like her as Jean, but that picture made me go like, nah, she's more like Magneto, because like, I saw that frame of all of them there, and then 11 doing this, but with the bloody Cyclops bloody uniform and bloody goggles on, and I was like, what the hell is this? Why are you put Cyclops on 11? You would put it more on Magneto, wouldn't you? But then like, when I actually saw that, I was like, yeah, she's just basically Magneto, just bloody put your arm out and a metal body comes up. It's like, well, Marvel, right? Marvel references in a bloody show that hasn't done anything based on Marvel. It's ridiculous. I like when Dustin explains the Abyss to everyone. The boys think that it's, they think of it as like a D&D game. It just shows how much they are nerds. You're like, well, there's that. Like, come on. This is crazy. I was like, what is going on? This is bonkers. The fact that Steve came up with the plan to go to get to the Abyss kind of gave me like a hint going like, okay, Steve's gonna bloody die. He's gonna get killed off, because the Duffer Brothers have like given so many hints that they're actually gonna kill Steve. Like, now we know that actually on that they were talking about the final episode, but they were talking about a specific moment without talking about actual bits. Like, I thought that was amazing. I was like, alright. Because, like, I think that they explained scenes in the show, like, when they did the whole Jimmy Fallon thing, they were like, we'll get to it, I mean, we'll actually talk about show context-wise later, but, when they had, like, everyone on the table with their Funko Pops, and they put the 11 one in the bloody glass of water, which explains, like, later when, like, she goes in there to go into the Upside Down, and, like, basically, and then Steve is on the edge of the table and he falls off. You're like, well, you kind of did do that, but you didn't show us the actual conclusion. So, we'll talk about that. I have thoughts. And the you die, I die scene between him and Dustin as they got ready to enter the Abyss. We saw in the Volume 2 trailer, but I was like, alright. I know where this is going. Something about the scene between Holly and the kids is scary and unsettling, especially since Holly believes Max and the kids think that Mr. Whatsit has saved them. You're like, no, this is total BS. Do not believe any of this. This is ridiculous. Don't. Now, it's like, have you brought back 8 back for no reason. Because we are 7 episodes into this season, let alone the last season, by the way, of this show. So far, until at some point they bring it back. Because I can see that after the final episode, I'm like, okay, this is a fantastic finale, but when's the bloody sequel series happening? Where's the Eat Chapter 2 style sequel series? Because, like, you have that, and, like, if A has done nothing in the last episode, I hope they kill her off. We'll talk about that later, but I was like, this, like, you bloody did nothing with this. Nothing. And she's also shorter than Millie Bobby Brown now. So you kind of feel like 11 is a big sis, even though that 8 is the older sister and Millie Bobby Brown's the youngest, because she's taller. And, like, it's weird because, like, Millie Bobby Brown in season 2 seems actual, like 13, 14 years old, and, like, 8 seems like 15, 16-ish years old. And you see now, and you're like, Millie Bobby Brown is, like, in her mid-20s now. She's, like, 24, 25. She's, like, my age. But, like, Callie is now, like, 19, 20. How come she is younger than bloody Millie Bobby Brown now? This is ridiculous. I like how they did Will's coming out scene. And there is a lot of those kind of scenes, and because I think that those scenes are important for certain people. It's very much like that X2 scene where Bobby is explaining to his family that he's a mutant, and his mother's like, have you ever tried not being a mutant? Their way of saying, have you ever tried not being gay? It's that type of thing. And then seeing the kids hooked up to Vecna the way that they were was just unsettling and creepy. You're like, oh my god, this is gross. And then when 11, Hopper, Henry, and 8 go into the Upside Down version of where 11 and 8 were created in the flashbacks, because we even get flashbacks to Papa and all that, which I'm wondering if those were shot for this season or they were just shot for the last seasons, but they just weren't used. Because the scene or two that they used in that final episode, I was like, I don't think that was in the previous episodes. Like, that was crazy to me. The fact that 11 said, promise me that you'll leave me in there until I make sure that he's dead, kind of made me go like, well, you're probably gonna kill 11. Okay. Fine. Like, she's one of my favourite characters, but like, okay, whatever. Sure. I was like, I can see why they're doing this. When Max started to walk, I was so confused. I was like, why is she walking? Why is there water? Because when the water came into it, I was like, oh, the basement is flooded. But then because like, there were actually, I was like, God, if she's just walking, there were things that they were actually, like, explaining, like, online that sounded more cool than what they're doing here. But it was actually a build-up to it, because, like, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, like, Robin's girlfriend walks over to Max after getting some food, and we see Max in another trench. I was like, no, again? Really? What the hell? Like, again we're doing this plot? But then when we actually see 11, 8, and Max in 11's mind, I was like, okay, I'm happy that they did what the speculation was going to be, where Max was basically going to have Madam Web kind of powers, where, like, she goes into a trance and then she can kind of go into the Upside Down with 11 and 8 and all that. I thought that was just building to it. Because I was way on the edge of my seat going like, if you freaking just make her bloody walk on water, this is just stupid. But no, it was a lead up. I was actually pleased about that. I was like, okay, I'm wrong. Everyone is on the tower. You're on the edge of your seat, and then when Steve came about to fall off, it cuts to black, and you're like, well, there's your moment. The next shot is going to be everyone looking down in the press and going like, oh shit. And then, but then when it actually when you cut back from black and you actually see Jonathan holding Steve, you're all like, oh my god. Okay, that was your moment to kill Steve. But okay, that was clever because like everyone was going like, oh my god, they're gonna kill Steve, and then like that's like I want to say the 5% of the world go like, oh no, don't worry, they're not gonna kill Steve, they're not gonna kill Charles. It's like Steve's not a child. They're gonna kill Steve. Joe Keery would not want to be a part of this anymore. But no, I did like that, and then like because I was like, well, okay, I do actually like that because Dustin needs that like older brother figure that Eddie was in season 4. And he doesn't have that without Steve. I actually did like that. I was like, okay, you've made it. You made a good thing out of what was going to be they're going to kill Steve. When they gave 8 her moment when she was showing the kids what Vecna is actually doing, and she can't actually see them because her power is them seeing but someone else not seeing them. When she was actually using her power, I was like, okay, you're actually using her the way that she's meant to. I was like, thank God, because I actually did like that. And then when she tries to stab one and like Vecna just like disappears, I was like, what just happened? Where'd they go? And I liked the moment of Jonathan and Steve talking to each other and apologizing about their differences and how they don't like each other. I was like, okay, like, alright, this is interesting, like, it's different to what I would have thought, but okay, fair enough. And then when Vecna is haunting Hopper, that is bloody terrifying, and I got scared. I knew that there was some horrifying imagery in this show because I'd just been watching it these past few months, but that whole sequence was terrifying. I was like, what? This is scary. And seeing the reveal that Vecna killed 11 was scary, but then she got out of the water and I was like, oh, okay, she's still alive. Because you're like, what is going on? But we actually learned it was the fact that Hopper learnt that 8 wanted her to stay inside the Upside Down. Because that's where they would be more safe. And I was just like, you're making her a villain. There's no point of even having her. You already have enough villains with Vecna, the Demogorgons, and the Demogorgons in the military. Like, you don't need another bloody villain in here. It's ridiculous. You don't need another one. There was no point of having 8 back. It's ridiculous. I do like seeing Holly as a leader in this show, like leading the kids through the dream world while 11, 8, and Max aren't in there with them. I actually do like that. When the helicopter came and 11 and 8 covered their ears because of their powers, and Hopper grabs 11 and leaves Callie, I was like, yes, goodbye. We don't bloody need you. Like, goodness gracious. Because they have depowered her since season 2. I was like, she's seemed pretty powerful in season 2. This season, she's weak as fuck. I will say, they did almost get me with Callie's death. When they eventually had it happen, I was like, okay, you almost made me emotional. But that was because of the relationship with Elle. But like that was the only reason. I don't care for Callie in this season. I think that she was useless. Like, you only had her for like she was in the beginning of season 2 and she was in one single episode season 2. And then you don't do anything with her until season 5. It's like, there's no point. And even the stuff that she has in season 5 is bloody nothing. So I was like, no, you did not need her in this season. That's the only one thing I didn't like. The episodes as a whole I really, really loved. But the way that they used Callie, I was like, you could have gone rid of her and not need her. That's my thought. When 11 makes the army guy like go suicide, I was like, that is amazing. I love when 11 does that, where like she like uses her powers to like make violent, brutal deaths. I absolutely love that. I think that was amazing. And speaking of 11, the scene between her and Hopper talking about how Hopper raised her and how he became her dad. He isn't how she isn't a kid anymore. Kind of connected the dots in my head, and I was like, oh, okay, like, she's gonna get killed off in the finale. There's... The seeds are just planted in there. Like, it's crazy to me. Vecna's backstory is terrifying. And you feel sorry for him, even though he didn't do the wrong thing, but it was out of his control. If that makes sense. I like the mind conversation between Will and Henry, and how Will is trying to connect with Henry and getting back to the light again, where it's like, you were like me, you were just a kid. This wasn't your fault. I actually really liked that. I thought that was very powerful. I was like, yes, this is amazing. And then when the spider thing comes to life, I was like, and it started to chase everyone. I was like, I'm watching a bloody war movie. It just looks very yellow and very epic. And in a way that war movies kind of do that sort of thing, I was like, this is bonkers. I like how Nancy is an asshole. I like how Nancy is a badass in this show. And she is one of those, and she's the one shooting the spider thing while Eleven is fighting Vecna inside of it. And Nancy is very Ripley in this show. She's very Ripley-esque from the Alien movies. With both the hair and her strategies in the way that she's trying to take down the spiders, and once she gets fighting, everyone follows her. I think that's very cool. I actually really like that. And when you think Vecna is going to kill Eleven, Will gets inside of Vecna's mind and takes him down by being inside of Vecna. I was like, yes. And then when Joyce is like cutting Vecna's head off, and you're seeing all of the bloody emotions and all of the flashbacks and stuff from season 1 to season 4, and like, you see all of this and you're like, oh my god, we've really been on a journey throughout this show. We've been on one hell of a journey. As soon as you think everyone is okay, the army gets back involved. I'm like, what the hell? Come on. This is ridiculous. And then, like, so when the army got back involved, but they are looking for Elle, and you see her in the Upside Down. Then she takes Mike into her mind, which is the first time that they've done that. I actually really like that. And like, and you see flashbacks from season 1 to season 4, and you get so emotional. Like, it was a nice way to wrap up the story without killing her off. Instead, she stays in the Upside Down while Purple Rain plays. I actually really like the fact that Purple Rain plays. I thought that was sick. I feel like after that ending, there is no way for them to bring back this show unless you do like what they're doing next year with the animated series, where like it takes place between season 2 and 3. I think that's right. Because the ending in this movie is very No Way Home-esque, where it feels like everyone has forgotten who Peter Parker is, but everyone still remembers Eleven in this show. I like seeing the kids graduating and taking photos with their families, and Karen rings Joyce because she can't find Mike, and Mike is seen down on the park bench in the afternoon, and Hopper sits down on that park bench with him and talks to him about Eleven. I actually really like that. And then when Mike finally shows at the graduation, and Dustin is the valedictorian, and Steve and the boys and Dustin's mother are cheering him on, and he realizes like how long you've spent with these characters. In my case, the last few months, but everyone else's case, the last like 10 years, which is crazy to me. I actually really like it. And when Dustin finishes his speech, and the speech goes off, and Mike hears the noise that he heard the night that Eleven went to the Upside Down. You're like, are you hinting towards something? But they don't. I like how Nancy, Steve, Jonathan, and Robin head back to head back to the radio station and they all talk and have a little emotional moment, and then like Hopper and Joyce finally have their date to go on after season 3. Like they're finally paying that off and Hopper gets to propose. I think that was amazing. And of course then you cut back to Will, Nancy and Holly's house. And it needs to cut to that bloody crappy sprinkler. That was the bloody first show of the first season of this. I was like, I know who owns this bloody crappy sprinkler. I was like, I know who owns this. Like, you might as well just cut right to the chase, but no, you had to show the crappy sprinkler. I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, what is going on? Why? But no, I actually really like that. And I like how it ends exactly how it started. The boys playing D&D, but this time it's with Max. And it's amazing seeing them all play what they love doing in every season of the show. And I like how Mike tells the future through the D&D game of what they'll all be doing. Like they use like they show footage of all the guys what they're doing in the future, but like Mike uses like Will the Wise and the storytelling, that sort of stuff. And you are bloody telling me that like 11 is still alive, but then Mike goes like, oh, but that's what I like to think. That's his imagination. And you're like, I hope you're actually going to give us like a It Chapter 2 style like sequel series where like you might not do Vecna, but some big bad villain from the Upside Down is introduced and you bring back everyone and like you bring back 11 and like it actually is, and you actually have that answer that it's actually what Mike's imagination is, other than just the Upside Down, her being in the Upside Down. Because I would not have liked that. But seeing the D&D game get passed on to the next generation with Holly and her friends is just incredible. I really love that. I need to give Stranger Things Season 5 a 4 out of 5 stars. I think that this is a world record of consistency in this show. I think this is very much like the MCU for me, where I don't think they could... I mean, this has not to do with the MCU, but like, I don't think that there's a way that they can bring back this show if they wanted to in the future. But I want to be proven wrong. I want this show to come back. And because I really love this show, and I think that this show is really a show that no one saw coming. And I really love that about it. So guys, thank you for watching. Please hit the like button down below. Alright, hit subscribe, also the little bell icon to get notified of future videos I make. I'll be doing my ranking very soon. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.
Hey there. Subscribe to my channel. And also press this bell icon.